Well, thank both of you for being here, Mr. Zekheim. I think everyone has seen the obvious threat Communist China and Russia pose. Given their dual threat, should we continue to assume that America can have a military that is capable of only fighting a war in one region? Or do you think we should be returning to maintain a military that is capable of fighting wars in two major regions? Mr. Zekheim.
Thank you for that question, Senator. And the National Defense Strategy in 2018 was clear that we needed to be able to prevail in one major conflict and deter in a second theater. And that latter point seems to be forgotten. It is a departure from the Cold War construct of being able to carry out two MRCs. But the problem with that construct is that we never had a force capable of doing that. So this construct that came out of the last defense strategy is one that I hope the current defense strategy adopts, one that relies a lot on allies in that deterrence, increased salience of nuclear weapons, but definitely recognizes that U.S. leadership should be present in three regions of the world, that is Indo-Pacific, Europe, and the Middle East, and we should have force sized large enough to prevail in one conflict, hold another theater, and eventually swing to that second theater if a second conflict emerged.
Thank you. Mr. Zekheim, in light of the rapid expansion of the Chinese nuclear arsenal, do you believe the upcoming nuclear posture review will adequately reflect what our future nuclear posture should look like? If not, what else do you think we ought to be thinking about?
Yeah, as I had opportunity to share before in this hearing, the NPR, I'm hopeful, will have robust support for the nuclear triad. I'm hopeful it will support investments in intermediate range nuclear missiles with the nuclear capability to put that on the table as well. And I'm hopeful our declaratory policy will not change. And no first use policy would undermine the very purpose of having a nuclear deterrent. We need extended deterrence now, Senator. That matters in the Indo-Pacific, and it matters increasingly more in Europe as well.
Why do you think deterrence failed in Europe?
I think it's failed because we've had successive administrations that have allowed Vladimir Putin to experiment and use force and invade sovereign territory of other nations. That happened in Georgia in 2008, happened in Ukraine in 2014, and he thought, and he thinks, and to date he's been proven right, he could do it without NATO and the United States responding. A more robust deterrence posture in the form of military presence, military exercises, and lethal aid to Ukraine would have done more, certainly, than what we've seen in Ukraine, and could have prevented Vladimir Putin from taking this current adventure.
Thank you. What do you think of the near-term prospects for arms control negotiations? And if Putin is failing in his attempt to reconstruct the Soviet Union, how do you think that affects his goals for such negotiations?
At this point, we should not be negotiating with Vladimir Putin in terms of arms control or anything else until he removes his forces out of Ukraine. The notion that we're going to try to negotiate with this man while he's holding Ukraine hostage is absurd.
Thank you. How successful has the Pacific Deterrence Initiative been since Congress created it, and what do you think the next steps are for our Pacific posture?
The Congress has been critical in leading a focused buildup of capabilities in the Pacific with the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. The administration, last administration, this administration has taken some of that on, but not enough, and it shouldn't rely on the Congress and this committee to do the work that it should be doing. We need more of what's in the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. It needs to be distributed and executed, and we need military concepts, operational concepts, developed so we are certain that those capabilities in PDI are actually being utilized in a coherent fashion.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Scott. Senator Peters, please.